Hi, welcome back for chapter 19 of Stargirl. The Amish in Pennsylvania have a word for it. What's that? I said. Shunning. I was at Archie's. I had to talk to someone. Well, that's what's happening. The shunnee, so to speak, has gotten himself in Dutch with the church, so he's excommunicated. The whole community is in on it. Unless he repents, nobody speaks to him for the rest of his life. Not even his family. What? That's right, not even his family. What about his wife? Wife, kids, everyone. His pipe had gone out. He relit it with a stick match. I believe the idea is to drive him away. But some stay, continuing to work the farm, having dinner. If he passes the salt to his wife, she ignores it. If the bishop had his way, the pigs and chickens would ignore him. It's as if he doesn't exist. I nodded. I know the feeling. We were on the back porch. I stared out at Signor Seguro. He said, "Does it happen to you when you're not with her?" "No," I said. "At least I don't think so. But when I'm with her, I feel like it's aimed at me, too." A small pipe cloud left the corner of his mouth. He smiled sadly. Poor dolphin, caught in the tuna net. I picked up Barney, the Paleocene rodent skull. I wondered if someone would be holding Cinnamon's head 60 million years from now. So what should I do? Archie waved his hand. "Oh, well, that's the easy part. Stay away from her. Your problem's kaput." I sneered. Great advice. You know it's not that easy. He did know, of course, but he wanted me to say it. I told him about the Valentine, the night in her driveway, the walk in the desert. The question that came to mind then sounded silly, but it persisted. "Do you believe in enchanted places?" He took the pipe from his mouth, looked straight at me. "Absolutely." I was confused. "But you're a scientist, a man of science, a man of bones. You can't be up to your eyeballs in bones and not believe in enchanted places." I looked at Barney. I ran my fingertips along the hard line of his 2-inch jaw, rough like a cat's tongue. 60 million years in my hands. I looked at Archie. "Why can't she be—" He finished for me. "Like everyone else?" He stood up and stepped back from the porch onto the desert. For his backyard, except for the shed where he kept his digging tools, was the desert. Nature did the landscaping. I put down Barney and joined him. We ambled towards Senor Seguro. "Not like everyone else," I said. "Not exactly. Not totally. But, Archie—" I stopped. He stopped. I turned full face to him. My thoughts and feelings were wild, a wild, conflicting jumble. After staring stupidly at him for a while, I blurted, "She cheers for the other team." Archie pulled the pipe from his mouth, as if to better digest his words. He raised one finger in the air. He nodded solemnly. "Ah, yes." We resumed walking. We walked out past the tool shed, past Senor Seguro. Occasionally, I picked up a stone and flung it towards the purple maricopas. Archie said, almost in a whisper, "She's not easy to put into words, is she?" I shook my head. "An unusual girl," he said. "Could see that from the first. Her parents, as ordinary, in a nice way, could be. How did this girl come to be? I used to ask myself. Sometimes I thought she should be teaching me. She seems to be in touch with something that the rest of us are missing." He looked at me. I nodded. He turned the mahogany bowl of his pipe upside down and rapped it with his knuckle. A small stream of ash spilled into the thicket of dead mesquite. He pointed the pipe stem at me. "You know, there's a place we all inhabit, but we don't think much about it. We're scarcely conscious of it, and it lasts for less than a minute a day." "What's that?" I said. "It's in the morning for most of us. It's that time, those few seconds when we're coming out of sleep, but we're not really awake yet. For those few seconds, we're something more primitive than we were than what we are about to become. We have just slept the sleep of our most distant ancestors, and something of them and their world still clings to us. For those few minutes, we are unformed, uncivilized. We are not the people we know as ourselves, but creatures more in tune with a tree than a keyboard. We are untitled, unnamed, natural, suspended between was and will be, the tadpole before the frog, the worm before the butterfly. We are, for a few brief moments, anything and everything we could be, and then—" He pulled out his torch and repacked the pipe. Cherry scent flew. He struck a match. The pipe bowl, like some predator or seducer, drew down the flame. And then, as we open our eyes and the day is before us, and, he snapped his fingers, we become ourselves. Like so many of Archie's words, they seemed not to enter through the ears, but settle on my skin, there to burrow like tiny eggs, awaiting the reign of my maturity, when they would hatch and I would at last understand. We walked in silence. Yellow blooms had appeared on a cactus, and for some reason they made me incredibly sad. The purple of the mountains flowed like watercolor. They hate her, I said. He stopped. He looked intently at me. He turned me around and we headed back. He put his arm around my shoulder. Let's consult Senor Seguro. Shortly, we were standing before the derelict giant. I never understood how Senor managed to convey a sense of dignity, majesty even, considering his stick-rickety see-through skeleton and the ridiculous leather crumple of hide at his foot, his fallen breeches. Archie always spoke with him with respectful formality, as if a judge or a visiting dignitary. Good day, Senor Seguro, he began. I believe you know my friend and charter member of the Loyal Order of the Stone Bone, Mr. Borlaug. He whispered an aside to me. I'm a little rusty, but I think I'll use Spanish now. He prefers it on delicate matters. He turned back to the cactus. Parece, Señor Borlaug aquí es la víctima de un shunning de sus compañeros estudiantes en el liceo. El objeto principal del shunning es la enamorado del señor Borlaug, nuestra propia señorita Niña Estrella. Él está un pescuado de preguntas. As Archie stood, he looked up towards the elf owl hole. Now he turned back to me and whispered. I asked for questions. Questions, I whispered. What about answers? But he was turning from me, tilting his head towards the great cactus, his finger on his lips. Shh. His eyes closed. I waited. At last he nodded and turned back to me. The esteemed senor said there is only one question. What's that? I said. He said it all boils down to this, and if I'm translating correctly, whose affection do you value more, hers or the other's? The senor says everything will follow from that. I wasn't sure I understood the senor any more than I understood Archie half the time, but I said nothing and went home. In bed that night, as the moonlight reached the high tide under my chin, I realized that, in fact, I understand the question perfectly. I just didn't want to answer it.